Welcome to Retired Time Productions.
Alright, this is Dave from Retired Time Productions, and I'm excited about my DJI Mavic Pro. And I did get the Fly More package because I did get 2 extra batteries. I really recommend on doing that. And you get the 4-port charger too and some other things. So the Fly More package is great. And there seems to be more of them in stock. So if you're in a hurry to get one, order directly from DJI and get the Fly More package. Okay, so now in this episode, and I hope you've been liking these videos. If you do, just give me a thumbs up under the video and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. But let's get into it. This time we're going to be learning how to charge the batteries for the drone and the controller. And we're also going to take a look at the firmware versions on all of the pieces to make sure they're all up to date. And then I'm going to explore what kind of SD card is best for this, for filming 4K. And then we might want to spin up the motors, give it a little test, and make sure everything is good to go. Now I was looking to see how to charge the controller, and this one page was the only hint I could find. It might be somewhere else and I missed it, but it looks like the power port is on the side, which is number 15 here, and that's showing it right here on the side, and it's not on the bottom like I was thinking. So the battery is actually easy to charge, especially if you have the Fly More package and you get this 4-port hub. You can plug up the 4 batteries on that and then just plug in your charger, and the AC cable goes in an outlet like I have over there. Just plug it in and it begins charging. Now this is an intelligent battery, so it'll shut off when it gets done charging, but it's a good idea to keep an eye on it anyway. Let's get to what I was going to talk about, charging the controller. But I thought, okay, here's the USB cable, right? We'll just plug it in here because it fits. And then the other end, I thought, well, that probably plugs into this nice little port that's provided over here, and I could just plug it in there, and you know, it fits in there fine, but as you can see, nothing happens. So it turns out from reading the manual that I showed you a minute ago that you can plug it in here. Now you notice the plug that normally goes in there is square. And I saw that and I said, well, that's square, the hole's square. This is not square. So it doesn't seem like that goes in that hole. But in fact it does. You just have to make sure that the tongue goes towards the bottom. This little tongue that's in there is on the bottom, and you want this slot to be on the bottom when you plug it in. And it goes in one way, won't go in the other, but I'd be careful because you could break it. And then you take the other end, USB, and you can plug it in the charger. If you have this type of charger, just plug it right in there. And then immediately the screen lights up and says it's charging, which it did not do when I plugged it in this socket. So that's how you charge the controller. So now let's move on to checking the firmware versions in the DJI Go app. And we'll start with checking the batteries, and while we're in there we'll look at the firmware versions for the Mavic drone and for the controller. So I want to check the batteries to make sure they have the latest firmware on them. I'm going to go through the normal sequence that's in the manual, and that says to power on the remote, then power on the Mavic, and then launch the DJI Go app. So let's just see what happens when I do that. So we'll go with the remote first. Tap, hold. There we go. So that's coming up. Looks like it's waiting to connect. And my phone recognized it. And it looks like it wants to launch the DJI Go app. And that would be out of sequence from the manual, but okay. It's what it wants to do. And now let's power on the quad. Tap, hold, same as before. Let it come up. So we get the lights on the front arms. Lights on the front arms, we got the tone, and then the lights in the back. Okay, so it's got mag interference. I've been getting that at my bench. I don't know what is interfering with it. If I put it down on the floor, it goes away. So I'll just go ahead and put it down on the floor. Now you heard a little buzz and it says ready to go. Alright, so then they give us this announcement. It's just a message that tells you some things that are going on, but nothing I can really do with it. I'll just close it. Alright, now let's go fly right here. See what happens. I think I can hold the phone this way now. There we go. And it says overall status, latest firmware. Now I think there's a menu you can go in to get details on this. Alright, so let's go to settings, and the way we do that is click this little button with the 3 dots, and these are the general settings. Then you go to about right here, and then it tells you your versions, and according to this it tells me the version number for the quad is 1.33, 1.3.3, and the remote controller is 1.3.2, and those are the latest versions. So apparently they don't have to match to work, just as long as they're the current versions. And I got my flight controller serial number and then the version of the app right here. But what I don't see is anything about the battery. So here's the manual for the Mavic Intelligent Flight Battery, and I was looking for something in there about the firmware, but it only has one page, so that was useless. And then we got the Mavic battery charging hub, so I decided I'd look in there. So I went to this link here that talks about getting the DJI battery update program, the firmware update program right here, and that just went to the Mavic downloads page. There was no firmware update program, so I looked on the forums, and from what I could read, they said that there is no update program, and the DJI Assistant 2 does not recognize the battery, so you really can't update it. The program's not available. So they said maybe in the future DJI will have an update program, but they didn't think it was really necessary to update the firmware on the batteries. So it looks to me like I don't need to do anything. So using the DJI Go app, we learned that the firmware versions were all up to date on the 3 items. But just for our own knowledge, we might want to use the DJI Assistant 2 someday. So let's take a look at that and how we can view the firmware on that. The batteries are fully charged as we did earlier, so now we're ready to go. I've got the DJI Assistant up on the screen and it's fully installed. I had a little bit of trouble with Windows 8, so I gave up on that. The driver just wouldn't install right, and I switched over to Windows 7. I'm on a Windows 7 computer, and this seems to be working. So first thing we got to do is turn on the Mavic. So I'm going to press the button once and then hold it down for a couple of seconds till the rear light comes on right there, and then I'll wait for the tones. There's the tones. Okay, let's go ahead and plug in the USB cable. Alright, it's plugged in. You can see the icon that was in the center here changed. And now I'm going to click on the Mavic Pro icon up here in the upper left. Click on that, and what it's going to do is try to get the list of firmware available. And there we are. It says the current is 1.3.3 and there's nothing newer. So it looks like it is up to date. So that's good. And this time I'll turn it on while it's all plugged in, and we'll see if that icon changes on the DJI Assistant. So yeah, there we go. Tap it once and then hold it, and it's powering on. There it is. And if we're lucky, we'll get the drivers. There go the drivers. They're starting to, and there goes the icon. Okay. Now we can click here and see what the latest firmware is. Very similar to the drone, the controller is up to date, because we have, this is the current version up here, and we are current. There's an older one you could downgrade, but there's no newer ones. So let's go ahead and put a memory card, micro SD card, into the Mavic to record video. And this is the one that I would recommend right here. And you can see right here it's a U3. But anyway, this is a really fast card, and you can see it says 4K right on it here, 4K on it up here. And it has the U3, and it's a SanDisk. So I got this card at Walmart. That's where I picked it up. So I noticed some of my other devices, like my RunCam HD camera, also the card goes in upside down. And so that might be common. So let's see if we can click it in there. I lost it before because it's spring loaded and couldn't quite push it in far enough. There, I think I got it in now. Okay. I'll close the door. Alright. Let's just do a motor test, because if the firmware is good, the motors should fire up. So I have to hold the two sticks, here we go. I have to hold the two sticks towards the middle and down. Okay, it's fired up. Motors are spinning. I can run the throttle, and I can shut it down by just holding the stick down, the throttle stick down. Alright, I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave any questions you want underneath the video. And we'll see you next time in the next one. And I hope I can get this thing up in the air and see how it performs.
Good night, honey.
Good night, honey. Good night, Mavic. Hey Mavic, do you remember when you flew into the tree? Yeah, that was sure